Okay, so we have added to the list here. We're just going to go back and then output the data to the output field down here, kind of like we did here. So users of sub something, and then dot name dot username dot password. Output that to maybe another tags down here. Okay, so let's do that. In here, so we need to go to the data, show data part, and we need to, as you can see, and we have only the placeholder for the output. Okay, so we have to decide what type of elements we want to add to this div tag. We could use the input, which is fine, like input the username, password, and so on. So have a pretty nice layout. Okay, so let's do that. So show data. We have access to the data already here, and then we just need to loop through the data and output everything out to the output. So I want to say the output will be, it's a div, so you can use the div. We use the output, which is a div tag, by the way. And then it will be query selector. This is the output. It's an ID, so I'm going to put that pound sign in front. So I targeted that output tag. This is the div tag, by the way. That's the div tag. So to get the data out, we need to create the input for each of those fields. So we need 3 of them, right? So I'll just say, just the same thing maybe. Name. So we're going to create this programmatically. Document, create element. This is the input. And you can just copy this 2 times. Select Control D, it's easier. This will be username, and then the password. Again, this is just one way. There are lots of ways. You could just, if you see this is redundant, so you could basically use this as one tag, and then each time just give it a different ID, right? And that's completely fine too. But we'll do it this way. So we get that username, and then we need to put that inside the tag. So here I have input, right? I want to have value is whatever that value is. So Clark, for example. We want to build that. Okay, so we got the input tag already for this part. Now, how do you get the value for that? So it would say name.value. Very simple, right? Very easy. This is for the input tag. If you use a paragraph tag, then the paragraph tag looks different, right? You have to use the inner HTML or create a text node and then append that to the paragraph tag and so on. So this one here, there's no appending at all. We only append these to the output later on when we're done. You can do it afterwards, or you can do it right away. It doesn't really matter. Okay, as long as you have it in there, you're completely fine. But if you just follow the process, then you'll probably add it at the end just so that it looks nice. So the value here will be assigned to the users of index or some sort, right? Because now index will be whatever it is. You don't want to put index really, so it'll be index of some sort. Dot name. That's what we want. And then we have the same thing for the username. Username value is users of I dot username. And then the password value is users of I dot password. Okay, so we get that for each person. So we need to increment the I every time. So you can see that we need to do a loop in here, right? Loop the entire list to get that. So we have to go up here and put in a for loop. Int for I from 0 is not there. I is less than the length of the users. Okay, and then we just increment the I. And we wrap everything here inside the curlies. So here, so each person will need to get the name, the user, password, create each input type, and then assign the values to them. Once we get that done, then we need to append that to the DOM tree. Okay, so we're going to have output.append child, the name. Okay, you do the same for the other two, just repeat those, and then the username, and then password. So here I'm choosing the input here. If you want to, when you get home, when you have time, swap it out to a different tag. Okay, and see how that works. Maybe put it into a drop-down list. Okay, and then you can select from the list. If you click on the user's name or something, it will take to a different page and so forth. So we add that there, and then I think we're done for this one. Only thing is that we appended that, it will all look like all mixed up together. We can't separate it. So if you want to separate that into each own box, then you have to create a div tag or some sort, and to wrap all of these inside its own box, right? So we could do that as well. So we'll see if this works first for now. Save that. Okay, let's go to our output page. Again, I have to clear this list. Hopefully there are no errors. So far so good. Just to make sure our users is empty. Okay, it's none. So let's put something here again. Clerk, Kent for the password, and then username, and then just something. Okay, so it's there. It's good. So I'm going to do the show data. So there it is. Okay, we got the first one. If I keep doing that, just keep adding the data from there, right? Because the data is still inside the user. So usually, once you add it, you should also clear your object so that it doesn't add anymore. So once we add it, you should clear the list. But so far I just showed that it does work. And then you need to just style these so they don't look in this format. So maybe like right here, we could add a var div, and then we'll say document that create element div tag. Okay, and we'll wrap all these inside the div tag first, and then we'll append that to the output tag. So we group it into its own tag. So really, I could just replace this div tag out here, put into the div tag, and then finally down here just say output append child, and then the div tag. Okay, so we have a div tag inside div tag, and if you want to style it, well, you want to style the div tag here. This is the outer div. Okay, does anybody see what I'm doing here? Okay, so I'm doing here basically, if you go in here, I'm doing something like this. I have a div, and then I have the input here. One input will go here, and then I have two of them, right? Like that. So that's person number 1. And then it will loop through to person number 2. So it will look like that, 3, and so on. Okay. Once you do that, then you can style the div tag to give it like style, maybe border 1px, solid, and then red. Okay. Just to show you, I saved that, and so you can always do this first. Once you get what you want, and then you go back into the code and modify it. So save that. For example, if I go back here and output, it looks like that, right? It puts in div tag. That's too far off, but at least I separate each of those with its own box. And you can also say, I want to put a padding, or maybe margin of 10. So let's add a margin. So get some room there. I mean, it's not the best, but at least you have some control of the CSS. Okay, so if you do something like that, then you can go ahead and delete all of these, and then go back into code. I showed you last time that we can append attributes. So this is the outer div. This outer div. This is the div tag for each group. Okay, you can say, once you get the div created, you can go ahead and say div.setAttribute. The attribute is going to be the style, right? And then what's the value is going to be. So we have like border 1px solid, and then we'll just do black is okay, and also have a margin of 10 pixels. That's the value for the style. Let's see what that looks like when we run it. So I create a div tag to wrap the 3 input tags, append them to the div tag, name, username, password, and then append the div into the outer div, which is the output tag for each of them, right? Any questions on this? How I set this up? So let's save this and see if this works in our output. Let me make this smaller. Refresh it. Okay, so Joel Black, JBOAK, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Submit. So far so good. Add another one. Clark Kent. C Kent. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, show data. And there we have them. I could have just removed that out. Remove that border. Doesn't look nice because I have the input in there. Okay, so you can remove the border. You leave the div as is, keep the margin, but maybe the border should be removed because these already have borders around them. Okay. That's you. Okay, so everybody have any questions? How I got that? So far so good?